Let's do this.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my LinkedIn Lives. I'm Jasmine Navarro, certified wellbeing expert, working with educational institutions and companies, teaching them about wellbeing. And as you know, every week I interview different experts who make a difference in people's lives. And today I'm super excited to be talking to Marie. Marie, welcome. Finally, we're here.
Yay! Yeah,
Can
thanks for having me. It's as we just said, it's like normally you meet people that you've never met in person, but we actually met in person.
Yeah.
First I'm talking
Exactly.
online. Kind of weird, but
Can you tell us about yourself and what you do?
of course. So my name's Marie, or in Dutch Marije, but no one can pronounce that. I'm Dutch. I'm an economist and started Positive Fibers 2 years ago. What else can I say? Like it's like you can give you the long version and the short version.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah.
I have alter ego, the circular fashion detective, which kind of came from being like super, super curious about what's going on in the fashion industry, and more importantly, what's going wrong and how do we solve for it. And everything taken through the lens of circular economy. So, yeah.
Wow. Very interesting. So you chose health in fashion. Can you tell us why you chose that topic and what does it mean?
Well, fashion industry is incredibly toxic. So that's the opposite of health. It's literally endangering the health of like public health. And I mean, like Positive Fibers was founded with the mission to basically bring health into fashion and on so many levels. So often, if you talk like if I don't know if you Google health in fashion, you would get things like active wear, like okay, fitness, right? Because like clothes are the fashion industry.
Yes.
Or it's mental health. There are things like retail therapy, right? Like if we're sad, we start shopping and we feel better. But I detected, to go back to that alter ego, that actually the bigger problem is that literally like what the naked eye cannot see, there's a lot of toxins in our clothes that affect our daily lives. And just because it's not directly visible to us doesn't mean it's not there. So I wanted to raise awareness about that. And like I always say, I'm here to like I'm probably ruining fashion for everyone to begin with, but then with the sincere promise to build it back better, because I love fashion. Like don't get me wrong, like I don't want to ruin it for myself. But we have to take.
No, and I think it's like you said, it's so important, the awareness, isn't it? Because if we don't have the awareness, then we don't have the option to make a choice.
Exactly. It all starts with education, and once we know, you don't go back to the stupid like or this like it's not your fault. Fashion
Yes,
industry.
yes.
But once you know, you just think twice before going back to
Brilliant.
those toxins. And mind you, they're not just in fast fashion; they're also in luxury wear. They're literally everywhere.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about this. So let's just welcome Mohammed. Hi, Mohammed. Lovely to have you here. And hi, Dora. Lovely to have you here too. And welcome everybody who's joining. Please feel free to share your opinions and ask us any questions. We'll be happy to answer them. We love hearing from everybody else. So very interesting. You called your business Positive Fibers. So can you tell us a bit more about where that name came from and what does it mean?
Well, first of all, the word positive is ambiguous in the sense that once I started to dive into what the fashion industry is all about, everything that I saw was just like the word negative is an understatement. But fashion is here to stay. So how do we continue in a way that doesn't threaten public health, that does make our lives better? And with so much negativity going on in the world, this was even like pre-pandemic. No, sorry, actually, well, I started pre-pandemic, but during the pandemic, Positive Fibers was born. Okay. So there's like at the end of the day, it's important to have a sense of optimism, to feel some kind of joy, right? And this is the thing that fashion actually is about. It should bring us joy. It goes beyond clothing. Clothing is very pragmatic. It's the shelter for your skin, just like how we have this too, but it should be more positive. And I don't know, I kept playing with the terms like positive vibes, Something that, you know, I would hear a lot, like in my own circles, things that I would say, you know, when like spending time with friends. And yeah, but then I realized, well, actually, like the thing is, like, everything starts with the materials. So the materials are called the fibers. So it was a play on the word fibers and vibes, and so that's how, you know, that's how it became positive fibers.
Wow.
Right.
No, interesting. And what is your like ultimate mission with positive fibers? Like, what do you really want to achieve?
Well, I always say that, because like I really think that the fashion industry is the big culprit here. Of course, the way you and I make buying decisions has an impact, but I mean, so like if we look at an industrial level, the thing that really, really bothers me is how we keep having landfills. And so if we focus on what goes into our materials, you know, I hope that everything that positive fibers is producing is 100% compostable. And if that's the case, nothing has to go to landfill. It literally goes back into the natural cycle. So I always say the mission is to make landfills obsolete while also helping people to live their values.
Wow. And this is a global
Yeah,
mission.
it's a big mission, but, you know, dream big, right? What else?
Exactly, exactly. So what would you say? Because like you said, you're raising awareness, you're educating people, you know, people might think most people probably think they go into a shop, they buy some clothes. How does it affect anybody? You know, can you really break it down? Because I think a lot of us are really unaware that what we're wearing is affecting anyone else.
Okay, so the journey starts with, let's say you go to a store, be it like physical or online. The thing is, like, that product you will see has already been made. That product often has already traveled. Often, number is crazy, but it can be like 100,000 kilometers
No
before
way.
you. So
Wow.
I'm super jealous of like the travel that my clothes have made. Like, I can never compete with that.
100,000 kilometers.
Yeah, it's because the thing is, it's so okay. Let's first start to dissect how a garment is made, right? Like, how does it
Yes.
end up in the store? So
Yes.
the general practice is that it starts at the drawing table with the designer. The thing is, I'm such a nitpicker, super detail oriented. So maybe let's start with yeah. I mean, there's, because the thing is, like, there's different genres in fashion, right? But okay, if we take like mass consumption,
Okay.
so like the big brands, right?
Yeah.
So it starts at the drawing table. So the design team will come up with a concept, or, you know, often they knock it off from another designer. But anyway, so it starts with the drawing board, and then once that concept is set, they start sourcing the materials. So they start thinking of, okay, what is the color of the season? So what color do we want to put into these garments? Are there specific prints we want to do, specific embellishments, things like that? So details of what we want the concept to look like have already been decided, without looking into what is available in what way. It's like, this is what we want, make it happen in the outside world.
Right.
So that's when the sourcing starts. And if we start with, for example, the fabric doesn't fall out of the sky. It's a really long process that can either start. So the thing is, there's different types of fibers. There's natural fibers, so that is both from plants and from animals. So, for example, wool, or you know, you're in Dubai, even camel hair, which is like one of the most luxurious fibers, actually. But basically, yeah, like you have a fiber, you can turn it into a textile. That's basically the thing. And then there's also the synthetic fibers, and that actually comes from crude oil. So that first has to be drilled out of the earth, processed, and then refined, and then it becomes like very laborious process. But then it becomes a textile, like polyester, nylon, acrylic, polyamide, etc. And so it's such a long story, right? But it's just
it's interesting. It's very interesting because
So don't want to bore anyone here with a lecture.
No, you're not boring me. You're not boring me.
The thing is, like, it's a very detailed process, and this is something that I never realized before, and it's actually super. Because I literally studied international business, so it's like if there's one person in the world who should know this, it's someone with. But no. But I discovered that the biggest problem is when. So with these synthetic fibers, right? It's all like it comes from fossil fuels, non-renewable, super intense, and so going back to the story of how we go from sourcing to the final product in the store. So now we're at the step where we have speaking as, okay, we're brand, we're the design team, now we're sourcing. Okay, we want a specific fabric. We want, for example, polyester, because the thing is, polyester is great for the fashion industry, mostly because it's cheap. So you can really ramp up your margins because of that. And you can morph polyester in, let's say, a silky material, like different variations of that, such as velvet. Velvet normally, like, it's, velvet is, I mean, you and I are from Europe. We love wearing velvet around Christmas. Maybe not so much in Dubai because it's too hot, but that traditionally comes from silk. Silk being a natural fiber comes from what do you call them? Like the whatever, like a larvae. Yeah, that's the word. But now, because from a costing point of view, the fashion industry, of course, has been looking into, okay, how can we increase the margins? How can we cut costs? So they found that polyester is a great replacement for silk, but polyester doesn't break down. It doesn't biodegrade. It stays on landfills for like 200 years. Anyway, so there's that part where the fabric is, basically plastic. But then, there's so many. The thing is, a garment is not just it's not just the fabric, but I said like start with the fabric, right? Because that is like the big chunk of what we see. But then there's also, for example, buttons, zippers, sewing, care label, neck label, packaging, hang tag, full shebang.
Wow.
So, and all those things are designed and are sourced and then manufactured. And so the traveling part is that, like on one hand, globalization is a good thing in terms of that we collaborate across the entire world, because at the end of the day, like we're just one big, exactly, we're one big global society, and it's just not that wherever you are in the world you have access to the same things. Like maybe your climate is different, so you cannot really farm those fibers or whatever, right? So that type of collaboration is good. But what happened in the fashion industry, in particular since the 90s, is that they found out how basically oil can become all these synthetic materials that are very cheap, but that just end up polluting the environment and affecting the health of the garment workers. But actually, and this is what no one talks about, our health as well, because at the end of the day, it literally touches your skin. But so back to the story. I was not prepared for this question, but back to that long story, or that long journey. That's as long as my story, apparently. It's the thing is, like, when we find the material, so like we have the concept drawn, now we source samples, so like get an idea of, okay, this is what the product could look like in reality. But let's say you're based in the Netherlands. The cost of the Netherlands is significantly higher than, let's say, in China. So what happens often is that a design team will be based, for example, in the Netherlands. I'm just saying the Netherlands because that's where I'm based. And send that concept overseas. They would say, okay, make us a sample. That sample comes back all the way from China back to the Netherlands for the design team in the Netherlands to inspect it, give their give their remarks of like, okay, we want I don't know, it could be as detailed as like, okay, we want this stitch to be we want this type of stitching, or we want the hem a little longer, or we want this button to be placed there, whatever. And instead of fixing it themselves, send it back. So that's 2 trips to China back.
And that's just one thing. Okay.
that's just one garment. And then if you think about how fast fashion, like we don't have 2 or 4 fashion seasons anymore. We have 52. Every week new stuff being released. So imagine how that process that I just described, from just getting to the concept, and that's just the fit and the fabric, and and like the yeah, basically like having the pattern, and then stitching that together so it's a garment. But we don't even have the finishing. We don't even have certain embellishments, or as I said, like the like all the labels that need to be attached to it as well. So there's so many details in behind making a garment, and
Yeah.
it's very laborious. And this is the thing, that fashion has this image of itself as being what do you call it, like very lightweight, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
look at what's in vogue or what's in the runway, and we
Yes,
only
yes,
think of it and how fun it is, how much joy it brings us. But we forget the whole, or it's not that we forget, we just simply often don't know, right? Because like I didn't
well, you
how
don't see it, do you? You don't talk about
we
it. You just go to the shop and buy it, or online.
you don't see it. And this is the thing, this is definitely due to the doing of the fashion industry, because they've been running a closed kitchen for a reason, right? Because it's not just the CO2 emissions involved. It's like one thing that in particular during the pandemic became more well known is the exploitation of human beings. So sweatshops are like, I don't know if people are familiar, I can briefly explain it. Basically, it's, imagine a factory where people are, they work like 16 to 18 hours a day in the worst conditions, often don't even have a bathroom break. There's many more horrible details to this that, I can go into, but it's for the sake of time, let's maybe give
Yeah.
that time. But complete exploitation of human beings. And the thing is, at the end of the day, I think we have to ask ourselves, what is it that makes us feel good when we buy something? Is it just the style, or when we know there's more to it, right? Like the carbon footprint of an item, but also the human involvement. Is that really what we feel proud in to wear, or should we rethink that? And yeah, it's just, I mean, like the bottom line is, it's like fashion just doesn't fall from the sky. And having like releasing what, for example, these like ultra fast fashion brands do, won't mention any names, but everyone knows them, um, releasing like 6,000 styles. I think now it's even per day. It's just ridiculous. Like,
Wow.
and actually, there was a really good documentary from the BBC that, like secretly filmed how people are working, and it's just pure slavery, and it's just, I don't know, like it has to stop. But going back to the topic, health and fashion, it's like the thing is, I always say, when it comes to defining ethics in fashion, right? Because that's often the thing that brands now talk about. It's not just paying your garment worker a bit more money, it's
No.
taking care of them from, like along the entire supply chain. And that's actually, to me, like it starts with the farmer. So making sure that they're not being exposed to pesticides, because the thing as well, if we talk specifically about those pesticides that the farmer is being exposed to, guess what? Those pesticides, they cling onto the fibers that end up in the clothes you buy in that store. So
Wow. There's
it's
so
just,
many factors.
it's
Yeah.
very it's very depressing. But that's why I always say, I'm probably ruining it for everyone, but I promise to build it up better in an actual positive way. And yeah, I
But
don't know.
what?
It's like there's it's just a very long
It's a
journey.
lot.
It doesn't have to
Yes.
be that way, because
Yeah.
I say the reason why it's such a long journey is because brands are just, they're just conducting a race to the bottom to squeeze out margins, and that of course is done on the back of people who are, doing their work honestly, but are just not being treated as human beings. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Some people might say, but maybe they choose a cheaper option because they just can't afford anything else. So what would you
Yeah.
say to
So
that?
that's a very interesting it's a very interesting topic. I've been speaking about this as well.
Have
Uh,
you?
the thing is that, like, of course, if we look at quote unquote sustainable fashion. I'm saying it quote unquote because I still think that I'm a nitpicker, right? But you know that, Jess. But sustainable fashion is an oxymoron. I mean, it's just like it's contradictive, but and especially the way it's being done today, it's just, you know, don't get me started on greenwashing. We'll be talking for 5 hours here. Yeah, no, but it's sorry, where was I just like I don't know, it's
No, that's okay. Yeah, so some people might say, but I can't afford
the cost. So
I just need something to wear and I just can't afford it. Yeah.
So the thing is, have been conducted where they found that people who absolutely so the thing that I wanted to mention is that if we compare the price of, let's just say, a t-shirt, right? A t-shirt that you find at a fast fashion shop that is sold for, I don't know, what is it, like €5 or like five, that's just, or I don't know, let's just say like $5, whatever. Impossible to make that in an ethical way, and ethical being both from the human side and the environmental side. It's impossible, especially given what I've just told you, right? The whole journey. So but actually what researchers have found is that sorry, so the thing is that if you look, like, if that is your standard, right, like, oh, a t-shirt should cost $5, and then you see a brand offering a t-shirt that is, you know, done in what is called like slow fashion, like very conscious, super responsible to both people and the planet, and that shirt suddenly costs, I don't know, just like, you know, saying like, imagine that's $100, and then they're like, well, no one can afford that.
Exactly.
And hence, true, but if you think about the quality of that t-shirt that you've bought from a fast fashion brand that actually breaks down after a few washes, you end up buying new. So it's always the balance of, do you invest once, like one time, in a truly durable item that lasts, you know, for a very long time, or do you keep buying something new? And then the thing as well, if you buy something new, what do you do with the things that are done, right? And actually they end up in landfills, because often they're also made from non-natural materials. So again, you have the problem of them not breaking down in nature. But what researchers have found as well is that if you look at like the ones that are complaining about you know, fashion not being, like, sustainable fashion not being affordable, are actually the ones that are addicted to buying trends. But they do have, like, they actually have the money for it. They're so programmed that they shouldn't be paying that money for it. And the other thing is that people who, you know, are truly have to watch what they spend.
Exactly. They don't have $100, for example. Yeah.
No, but they are the ones that actually will be more likely to buy, like, the more expensive but durable t-shirt, because it lasts them longer, because they actually, like, they really cannot afford for something to break down and having to buy it new again and again. I don't know, there's this idiom in Dutch which says that and, like, please teach me the English one, I'd love to know. It's like, if you buy something cheap, you actually end up buying expensively, and it's because things break down.
Of course, definitely. I can't remember what the quote is, but yeah, it is.
And the thing as well, if we, you know, another thing that's really coming up now as well is repair. So the other thing is that if something is too cheap, people don't, like, they cannot be bothered to repair it. They're like, oh, I'll just buy something.
That's so true.
Right? So don't even, like, we have completely got out of touch with what we have. There's like no relationship with what we buy. We just literally see it as stuff. And it just, you know, if you think about how much work is behind it, it's just, I don't know, it's just like a slap in the face to, you know, to the people behind that garment you buy. But that's another
so much stuff, actually. I think nowadays we all have too much stuff. It's just stuff everywhere, isn't it? But so what would you say, like, what can the average person do? Like, maybe they don't have a lot of money. I know you said it works out cheaper, but what if, you know, what can the average person do to help themselves? But also, sorry, I just want to say as well, you said the fibers, we end up wearing the fibers. So what does it do to us individually?
Sorry, I don't think I quite heard that.
Sorry. So you mentioned when we wear these fibers, it can affect us in a negative way.
Right.
How can it affect us? Because that might be a motivation
Right. So
to
actually our largest organ is the skin, and like our clothes are literally our second skin, right? And the thing is, when your clothes contain synthetic materials, often, so the thing is, like, there's about 8,000 toxic chemicals in the fashion industry that end up in our clothes. So it's not per se that 8,000 toxic chemicals are in one garment, right? But one of them, very, very difficult scientific word, but basically the popular name for it is the forever chemical. This chemical is so toxic, it's been found by researchers that it affects our endocrine systems or hormonal balances. A popular term for it is actually gender benders. So it really is toxic. And by wearing these clothes, we actually breathe in like these like super tiny particles that end up in our bodies. So like microplastics have been found in blood, in placentas, in organs. Like it's just and the thing is, like, I was born with asthma, so air pollution is very dangerous to me, right? And our clothing is polluting the air, and you don't see you don't feel the effect from like wearing it one day, but if every day around you,
yeah,
the bill
of
for
course.
it. So,
How do we know if it's got microplastics? Like when we buy it in the shop, like how is there a way to know, or is it just dependent on the price?
no, so I mean, basically, if it's synthetic materials, you have to think twice.
Oh, okay.
It's actually super simple, and then to
Yeah.
your like, what can people do to like to afford fashion on a budget? Well, the thing is, like, if I paraphrase that correctly, what I would say is, start with your own closet. Look at it, like, what do I already have? And maybe, do like a full, like, mindful, I don't know, Sunday afternoon, whatever, like, okay, why did I buy this? Does it still fit my personal style? I don't know, you could go like full Marie Kondo on it, right? Like, does it
Yeah.
joy? But I think often we also forget what we already have, and
Definitely.
we're just too focused on like keeping up with the Joneses and following trends. And actually, what's also been found, and this is like something I don't know, like, I'm like obsessed with it recently, is actually, when people, like, one way to reduce this like mass consumption is to really start with understanding what is my personal style. And that is not just like, oh, I see someone's outfit on the street, I want that. No, it actually starts with, okay, who am I? Like, what is my body shape? What is my complexion? And what makes me look my best? So, for example, certain colors simply don't work for us. And once you know that, you actually can build like uniforms, kind of like, what Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg had and have going on. But it's, I don't know, like, if we talk about health and well-being, that's also a form of implementing that in our lifestyles, right? Just having more calmness, of, okay, actually, I know what looks good on me. And because the thing is, when you know your personal style, the moment you're being triggered by, let's say, an Instagram ad, right? Because like marketing is just
Yes.
faces left and right and wherever, you're stronger to fight that urge to actually buy something that would just end up in the back of your closet anyway, or that just actually doesn't really is worth spending money on. So yeah, I don't know, like, it's about getting conscious about fashion and really, I don't know, kind of relying on the promise that if you, like, yeah, if you take a bit of time of reflecting, why did I buy this, and like, how do I feel about it, then actually I don't know, like, it's, you just become more mindful about it, and you no longer become kind of a slave of the fashion industry, as I always say.
Yes.
Of always buying things, like wasting money on it, because that's the thing, buy cheap, like I said, you actually end up losing money on something, because
All the time. Every time I've done that, every time I've ever bought something cheap, I don't wear it, or or you buy a few things and you think you're saving money, but actually you're not, because you don't wear it and you have to buy something else anyway.
I mean, I think we've also been guilty, like I've been guilty of that as well. Like, you buy something and actually the price tag is still on it, like half a year later.
Yeah. You buy it because it's cheap, not because you like it sometimes.
Exactly. I mean, I always say, like, I'm like a recovering, I don't know, fashion lover, but it's, it's, I mean, like, I still love fashion, but just not the way that I bought it before, and
Oh,
it's and like it really, I've never been happier with the way I approach fashion now, so I can really recommend it.
No, brilliant, Marie. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing
My
your
pleasure.
knowledge about this, because I've learned a lot today as well. And I think there's so much more to know as well. So we definitely have to have another conversation about this. But
Sure.
is there anything else you want to say before we go? And how can people find you? And you mentioned something, a free something on your website. Tell us about that.
So, you know, like follow me on LinkedIn if you want more uncomfortable truths about the fashion industry. The promise of, you know, like also share positive things, right? I mean, I try. And the other thing is, so the website is Positive Fibers, and fibers being not the British way, but it's being like five. So fibers.com.
Okay.
And
if you can add that on the post as well.
Sorry?
If you can put that link on the LinkedIn post, and then people can click on it. Yeah.
What we have on the website is a free guide to get started on identifying what I call negative fibers. That's like the enemy of positive fibers, right? So all these fibers that just like negatively affect our health. So for example, polyester, but then there's also recycled polyester. That's a whole other story. Just, you know, like download that. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if we're not connected already. And thank you everyone for coming. I saw some familiar faces, so excited they were here with us today.
Yes, and thank you so much, Marie. So yes, any questions about this live today, please contact Marie or myself, or you can feel free to write something in the comments. Thank you so much, Marie. It was a pleasure, and I will see everybody else next week.
Yes. Bye-bye.